In a quiet corner of the countryside, I dedicated my life to farming, cultivating the land that had been in my family for generations. My farm not only provided sustenance for my family, but also served as a vital food source for our community. Little did I know, a storm was brewing just beyond the fields, a conflict that would turn my life upside down. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, which governed our quaint neighborhood, had quietly decided to sell off 1,700 acres of farmland, completely unaware that I held the deed to this land and the food supply it nurtured. When I first caught wind of their plans, disbelief washed over me. How could they sell land that belonged to me? My heart raced as I unraveled the tangled web of decisions made without my consent. This was not just a matter of property. It was about the very essence of our community's sustainability and security. As I began to dig deeper into this shocking development, I realized that this wasn't just about my farm. It was about standing up against an organization that believed it could make decisions unchallenged, affecting countless lives in the process. My battle to reclaim what was rightfully mine had just begun. The farmland in question has a rich history that stretches back generations. My ancestors first tilled this land over a century ago, transforming it into a thriving agricultural hub. It was more than just soil. It was a legacy built on hard work, resilience, and a deep connection to the earth. The fields were filled with crops that not only fed my family, but also provided fresh produce to our neighbors, fostering a sense of community and trust among us. Over the years, I dedicated myself to sustainable farming practices, ensuring that our methods preserved the land for future generations. This farmland was a source of pride, embodying the values of stewardship and responsibility. Local families relied on my farm for fresh vegetables, fruits, and grains, creating a symbiotic relationship that strengthened our community ties. I organized seasonal markets where residents gathered to buy local goods, share recipes, and enjoy the bounty we cultivated together. However, as urban development encroached upon rural areas, I noticed increasing pressure on our farmland from entities that prioritize profit over preservation. This growing tension set the stage for the shocking revelation of the HOA's actions. The very organization that should have supported us was now jeopardizing our food supply and our way of life. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, was established to maintain the quality of life in our neighborhood, overseeing rules and regulations that govern property use and community aesthetics. With good intentions, they aimed to preserve the charm of our rural setting and ensure that all residents followed guidelines meant to enhance property values. However, as I began to learn more about their authority, I realized there were significant gaps in oversight and transparency. The HOA held power over communal decisions, often making choices that affected not just individual homeowners, but also the surrounding lands that contributed to our community's identity. They organized meetings where members could voice concerns and vote on local matters, but those meetings often lacked adequate representation from those directly impacted by their decisions. Like me, as I delved deeper into their operations, it became clear that their actions regarding the sale of my farmland were not only misguided but potentially illegal. The HOA had taken it upon themselves to act as if they owned the land in question, disregarding my rightful claim. Their authority was being misused, leading to a shocking betrayal that threatened not just my livelihood, but the very foundation of our community's food supply. It was time to confront them about their overreach. The moment I discovered the HOA's decision to sell my farmland was a turning point that would forever change my life. It all began on an ordinary afternoon, when I received a call from a concerned neighbor who had heard rumors circulating about the sale of 1,700 acres of land. At first, I brushed it off as a misunderstanding. Surely the HOA wouldn't attempt to sell land I rightfully owned. But as I dug deeper, my heart sank. I found documents online that outlined the HOA's plans, and even details about potential buyers eager to develop the land. The realization hit me like a freight train. They had not only sold my farmland without my knowledge, but had also completely disregarded my legal claims to it. My hands trembled as I sifted through paperwork, each page revealing more evidence of their audacious actions. It felt surreal to think that an organization meant to serve our community could act so recklessly. The betrayal cut deep, and anger surged within me as I realized that what was at stake was not just my livelihood, but also the future of our community's food supply. This was no longer just a personal fight. It was a battle for justice that would impact everyone relying on my farm. As the reality of the HOA's actions set in, I focused on gathering evidence to assert my legal ownership of the farmland. I pulled out old family records, deeds, and property documents that trace back generations. Each piece of paperwork told a story, reinforcing my rightful claim to the land that had been cultivated by my ancestors and cherished by our community. I meticulously organized everything, emphasizing the documented history that proved my family's continuous ownership. It became clear that the HOA had acted without any legal authority or justification. My heart raced with determination as I reviewed the local land laws and property rights. They were firmly on my side. Armed with this information, I consulted with a lawyer who specialized in property disputes. Together, we built a strong case highlighting not only my ownership, but also the legality of the HOA's overreach in selling land they did not own. This was not just about reclaiming my farmland. It was about holding the HOA accountable for their actions and ensuring that such a violation would not happen again to anyone else. I felt a renewed sense of purpose as we prepared to confront them legally, ready to fight for what was rightfully mine and protect our community's future. As news of the HOA's illegal sale spread through our community, the reaction was swift and powerful. Many residents were stunned to learn that the land I had tended to for years, land to produce their food, was being sold without my consent. Conversations erupted in homes and at local gatherings, and soon a collective sense of outrage emerged. People began to realize that this issue went beyond just my farm. It struck at the heart of our community's values and its future. Neighbors who had relied on my produce voiced their support, expressing concern over the implications of losing a vital food source. Local families rallied together, sharing stories of how my farm had enriched their lives, providing not just groceries, but also a sense of community. Within days, a grassroots movement began to form, with residents organizing meetings to discuss how we could stand together against the HOA's actions. The solidarity was palpable as I received messages of encouragement from friends and strangers alike. It became clear that this fight was no longer just mine. It belonged to everyone who valued local agriculture and the bonds we had forged through shared meals and community markets. Together, we were determined to confront the HOA and reclaim our land, our food supply, and our community spirit. As anger and determination fueled our community's response, I knew we needed to take a closer look at the HOA's actions. My lawyer and I began to dig deeper into their decision-making processes, searching for evidence of misconduct or negligence in the sale of my farmland. We discovered that the HOA had not followed proper protocols, including failing to notify me as a landowner and ignoring local zoning laws that protected agricultural land. We submitted public records requests to obtain meeting minutes and correspondence related to the sale. What we uncovered was alarming. Discussions about the sale were conducted behind closed doors, with little regard for transparency or community input. It became evident that several key members of the HOA stood to benefit financially from the sale, a clear conflict of interest that raised serious ethical questions. As we pieced together this information, it became clear that this wasn't merely an oversight. It was a calculated move by individuals who prioritized profit over the well-being of our community. Armed with this evidence, I felt more empowered than ever to confront the HOA. The truth was on our side, and I was determined to expose their wrongdoing, not just for myself, but for everyone who depended on our local food supply and community integrity. The day of confrontation with the HOA arrived, and I felt a mix of anxiety and resolve as I prepared to face them. Our community had rallied behind me, and I knew that I wasn't alone in this fight. Armed with evidence of their misdeeds, I entered the meeting room filled with HOA members, local residents, and supporters who had come to witness the proceedings. As I stood before them, I laid out the facts clearly and passionately. I detailed how they had illegally sold my farmland without my knowledge or consent, emphasizing the ethical breaches and conflict of interest that permeated their decision-making. The atmosphere was tense. Some members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as I presented documentation, showing their failure to follow proper procedures. I called for accountability, demanding not just a reversal of the sale, but also an investigation into the HOA's practices. My voice echoed with the support of my community, who nodded in agreement and voiced their own concerns about transparency and representation. As I concluded, I could see the impact of our united stance beginning to take effect. The confrontation was not just about reclaiming my land. It was about standing up for our rights as residents and ensuring that our voices would be heard moving forward. Following the confrontation with the HOA, the battle shifted into the legal arena, where emotions ran high and stakes were even higher. My lawyer and I filed a formal lawsuit against the HOA, seeking to reclaim my farmland and hold them accountable for their unlawful actions. The legal process was daunting, filled with procedural complexities, but I was determined to see it through. As we prepared our case, we gathered extensive evidence of the HOA's misconduct, including testimony from community members who had witnessed the shady dealings surrounding the sale. Each court appearance brought a new wave of anxiety, but also solidified my resolve. The support from my neighbors was unwavering. They attended hearings, wrote letters, and even organized peaceful demonstrations to show their solidarity. The HOA hired a formidable legal team to defend their actions, arguing that their decisions were within their rights as an organization. As we navigated through motions and counterarguments, I found myself often reflecting on what this fight meant, not just for me, but for anyone who valued local farming and community autonomy. With each passing day in court, I understood that this was more than a personal dispute. It was a pivotal moment for our community's voice against mismanagement and exploitation. As the legal battles continued, the importance of our local food supply became increasingly apparent. This situation was not just about reclaiming my farmland. It was about recognizing the vital role that local agriculture plays in sustaining our community. The farm had been a source of fresh produce for countless families, providing not only food, but also a connection to the land and each other. In a world where corporate farming and large-scale agriculture often dominate, the value of local farms cannot be overstated. They contribute to food security, reduce carbon footprints through shorter supply chains, and foster relationships between farmers and consumers. My farm had become a cornerstone of our community's identity, where families gathered for seasonal markets, shared recipes, and supported one another. With this fight, I wanted to highlight the necessity of preserving local farmland against encroaching development. Losing my land would not only endanger our food supply, but also diminish the community spirit that thrived around it. As I spoke out in court and at various community events, I emphasized that protecting our local farms was essential for future generations. This battle was more than a personal struggle. It was a movement to safeguard the essence of what made our community resilient and self-sufficient. Throughout this tumultuous journey, the solidarity of our community became a beacon of hope and strength. As the legal battles unfolded, neighbors and friends rallied around me, demonstrating the power of collective action. They organized community meetings where we shared updates on the case and strategized ways to amplify our voices. The support was overwhelming. It was evident that this was not just my fight, but a shared struggle for everyone who cherished local agriculture and community integrity. Local businesses joined in as well, offering to host fundraisers that would help cover legal costs and spread awareness about the importance of preserving our farmland. Families brought homemade dishes to share during gatherings, creating an atmosphere of unity and resilience. Each act of kindness reinforced our determination to stand together against the HOA's actions. The community's involvement transformed what had initially felt like an isolated battle into a movement. It sparked conversations about land rights, sustainability, and the need for transparency in local governance. As we marched together in peaceful demonstrations, holding signs that read, "Save our farmland," I felt an unbreakable bond forming among us. This solidarity not only fortified my resolve, but also illuminated the path forward, proving that when a community unites, it can confront even the most formidable challenges. After months of legal battles, community activism, and unwavering support, we finally reached a resolution. The court ruled in my favor, declaring the sale of my farmland illegal and affirming my ownership rights. Relief washed over me as I realized that not only had I reclaimed my land, but I had also sparked a movement that highlighted the importance of local agriculture and community engagement. In the aftermath, I took a moment to reflect on this incredible journey. It was a reminder of the power of perseverance and unity. The fight had been exhausting and emotional, yet it brought our community closer together than ever before. Neighbors who once exchanged pleasantries now share deep bonds forged through shared purpose and mutual respect. With the legal battle behind us, I was excited about what lay ahead. Rebuilding the farm was no longer just about restoring my livelihood. It became a mission to cultivate community resilience and sustainability. We began hosting workshops on local farming practices, encouraging others to participate in preserving our agricultural heritage. This experience taught me that standing up for what is right can create ripples of change far beyond individual circumstances. As I looked out over my fields once more, I felt not only gratitude but also a renewed commitment to nurturing both the land and the community it sustains.